All right, all right. We are back at the Grit Won't Quit podcast. We're doing today's virtual. We have a very special guest on. We have Nicole from Colwell Creative. Good morning. How are you today?
Good morning. I'm doing very well. How are you?
Excellent. So you are in New York. Let everybody know where in New York you are.
I am in Elmira, New York,
And
which
where is that? Because I grew up in New York and I don't even know where Elmira is. I have an idea, but I grew up downstate New York in Long Island.
we are about 4 or 5 hours away from Long Island, maybe a
Yep.
little bit more depending on traffic. Really close to Pennsylvania. So
Mm-hmm.
I can be in Pennsylvania in about 10 minutes
Wow.
by car.
All right. So you have a lot going on, and we got to get right into it because I think that there's more conversation than minutes for this podcast. So let's let's cut right to it. So tell me about yourself. Tell me why what kind of grit you're dealing with, what you do on a day to day. You're involved with multiple things. So let's kind of just jump right into the creative and the ministry and go from there.
Okay. Well, so I started my own business completely by accident. I did not mean to do it. Back in 2012, I was in a situation where I was working for a local medical office
Okay.
here, and the person in charge kind of headhunted me.
Mm-hmm.
I'd worked for her before, and she really wanted me to come and be a supervisor in her office. So I was very flattered, and I took the job, but it was a really bad situation.
Oh.
People were getting fired and things were not great. And I started getting yelled at all the time. So this one particular day, I knew I had a meeting with my supervisor. It was just going to be another one of those times when I was going to get screamed at. And I went to lunch and I called my husband and I told him he knew all of this stuff that I'd been dealing with. And
Mm-hmm.
I told him that I had this meeting coming up and he said, just go home. And I said, what? And he said, you heard me. Just get in your car and go home. So everything in me was wanting to say, but I can't do that. I can't just leave my job.
Yep.
But in that moment, I knew he was right. I didn't deserve to be treated poorly. I was a good worker and I did exactly what he said. I got all my stuff and I went home. And then when I got home, I said, what did I do? And I immediately started sending out resumes and looking for jobs. And he called me and said, what are you doing? And I said, I'm trying to find a job. And he said, go watch TV. We're going to be okay. So I did. I went and watched TV. And then maybe about a week or so after that, I got an email from this company that apparently I had signed up to write content for
Mm-hmm.
5 years before this. And the
Okay.
email said, hey, you signed up for this. Are you going to do this or not? Like, what's going on? I forgot all about it.
Mm-hmm.
So I said, well, I don't know if this is real. I don't know if it's a scam. Maybe it is. But I could try it and see what happens. So I logged onto the system and I picked this little Scooby Doo column article thing to write for $3.56. And I said, if they pay me, awesome. If they don't, it's
It's
$3.56.
not a huge loss.
Right. So I did that. And then the next week, they deposited $3.56 into my PayPal account.
All right. So we're off to the races.
I said, I can do this and I can make a lot more than that. And that kind of sent me down the road of freelance writing. And I've always loved writing. I wrote my first story when I was 10 years old. And it was just an incredible blessing for me to be able to do that and have somebody pay me for it. It was amazing.
That's fantastic. So now you ghostwrite for other people.
Yes. Well, I continued first with the freelance writing, working for businesses. I do have a psychology degree, so I knew a lot about mental health. I worked in mental health as well. knew about addiction treatment. So I started working with companies that was their focus mainly. There were
Mm-hmm.
some other things that I did too. But then AI came along
Sure.
and really derailed a lot of those efforts because I'm maybe it's because I'm getting older, but I'm kind of set in my ways. And I like writing words with my hands, not using a computer to do it for me.
Sure.
So earlier this year, we kind of pivoted to working with authors and helping them write, publish, edit their books. And it has been a phenomenal success since April of this year. There has not been 1 month this year that I have not had an author client that I've been working with.
That's great. And I think that there's a lot of business in that, right? There's a lot of people that are looking to tell their story in different ways that I think that you'll always have work in that regard. You know, the AI is valuable for some short writing, some content creation for websites and for blog posts and social media. But again, I think from an author standpoint, you're not going to use AI right now.
Right.
So I think that gives you the upper hand. So I think it's great that you pivoted. So you saw kind of the writing on the wall, and you realized you had to make a move.
Yeah, and I'd worked with authors before, so this wasn't a new thing for me. My husband's great uncle had approached me, I think it was like 2014, and he asked me to write his memoirs.
Okay.
And we spent 4 years working on this incredible book of his memoirs. And, since that time, here and there, people would come to me, hey, do you know how to write books? It wasn't new at all, but
Sure.
it really it seemed like the right time to make that change. And it's been awesome. I just love it. And it's so rewarding.
Mm-hmm.
When you write an article for a business, they say, thank you for the article. When
Mm-hmm.
you help a person write a book, it changes their life.
Totally.
Like it's so much more rewarding than writing content. It's awesome.
Absolutely. I think that that's great. Down the road, at some point, I'm going to write a book. I'm just not ready for it yet. I have a ghostwriting service that calls me probably monthly to ask me if I'm ready to write the book. But I think I still have some more chapters left to go, and then I'll look at it. That's great though. That's fantastic. And what kind of books are you writing right now? Like, what are some of the authors? Like, is it fiction? Is it novels? Is it autobiographies? Is it biographies? Well, it wouldn't be an autobiography, but biographies.
Actually, I do ghostwrite autobiographies.
Really?
Well, the autobiography part is just the point of view that it's written in.
Okay, that's fair.
I did a book by a new author. She's actually a friend of mine. Her name is Jessie Rom. Her book is just incredible. The things that she has been through, the abuse that she's endured throughout her life, and she's so young, and she's got 3 kids that are just amazing. But her book is more of like an autobiography because it's told her own viewpoint. So yeah, I've done a lot of that. A lot of the books that I work on, the authors are Christian, but not all of them. I've done one horror book, which that was way outside of my wheelhouse, but it was an interesting experience too.
That's cool. That's cool. That's different. It's fun. It's so 2025 is going to be continue with the authors and continue writing books.
That's the plan. Yep.
Awesome. So now, like when you said that you like this much better than when you were writing content. So the plan is to just kind of ease out of the content, let the AI do that work, and then you'll stay focused on this?
Well, I'm going to probably primarily focus on this, but I made a mistake a few years back, and that I posted on Facebook that my agency was no longer accepting clients.
Why would you do that?
I don't know.
That's
I know. I was so busy at the time, and it was just me. It
Yeah,
wasn't,
sure.
I didn't have a team.
Yeah,
And building a team didn't really cross my mind at that point.
sure.
But now that I do have a team, still happily, we have some content clients still that we work with. Not as many, but there are some that still come to us for. I one guy, he's a therapist in Canada, and
Hmm.
I've been writing for him since almost since I started, 12 years.
That's great.
Yeah, he won't go anywhere anytime soon. So
That's fantastic.
yeah, so I won't turn down work if I've got clients that come to me and they want content. We
You
will create the content.
after
Absolutely.
that epic fail that said you weren't taking on clients, now you take on
Yeah,
everybody.
I will never say that again.
In a world of freelance work and people that are always looking at a side hustle, there's always someone that could help fulfill that promise, that work. So, I would agree. Like, again, unless it's outside of your skill set, and but other than that, I mean, I think in the world we live in, people are looking for a reliable person that they can count on. So if you're their go-to person, and then it's your job to help find additional resources to help get it done.
Exactly. And even you mentioned the skill set. That's never set me back at all. Everything that I know how to do, I taught myself how to do.
Mm-hmm.
People have come to me. I had a car club come to me about 10 years ago, and they needed somebody to edit their magazine that they put out every other month. I had
Okay.
no idea what InDesign even was, Adobe InDesign, and I just taught myself how to do it. And that's kind of how I built my business. I say yes to things, and then I learn it.
I love it. I love that hustle. And that's the grit of it all, right? That's the grit of being an entrepreneur. And I think a lot of people, and we're in similar worlds, not the same. We run a marketing agency and we do a lot of websites, but there's a lot of times where people kind of categorize us all the same. If you're a content writer, you're a web developer, you're a marketing company, you're an IT company, in the rest of the world's mind, everything's the same. Like, if they don't know any better. So that's great that you take on that mindset of we'll just get it done and figure out the way and work with the right teams to help you get there. I love it.
Absolutely.
So you also do ministry and you're starting your own ministry. Kind of
Yeah.
dip into that a little bit. Tell us about that.
Okay. So in 2019, I had been working with this really big client for a couple years at that point, mostly in addiction treatment, writing content for her. And she, back then, most of my eggs were in that one basket.
Okay.
Everything was going great. And then she lost her main client, which I really thought I was losing my business. I didn't know what I was going to do. And I started to really freak out about it. And I went through this period of time where it was really just a trial. Um, this thing that I had built for 7 years at that point, I put my blood, sweat, and tears in it, and I really thought that it was going to go away. And there were
Mm-hmm.
other things that I was dealing with in my life too. Like I had a teenager, and he was having issues with girls that needed to be dealt with. And I was having an issue with someone else in my family that just like it felt like it was all falling down at the same time, and I was feeling crushed.
Yeah.
And I'm a born again Christian, and I really just started praying, and God started to show me the different things that I needed to do to get through this trial. So
Mm-hmm.
the end result of that was a book called Slaying Goliath, and that book is actually right here.
All right. Slaying Goliath. And you're the
And
author.
I am the author, yes. And then earlier this year, I did Slaying Goliath in Your Marriage. And both of
Okay.
these books have workbooks that go along with them. And the ministry is I know you'll be surprised, Slaying Goliath Ministries, which is
Consistent branding.
absolutely. And it's not only for adults, I've got children's books. My daughter and I work together on the Giant Crushers children's book series.
Very cool.
We're going to be publishing our fifth one, which will be a Christmas book very soon, hopefully, maybe even this weekend. That would be amazing.
Wow. And where are you selling these?
They are available on Amazon, and I also do a lot of, well, not a lot now that the summer is over, but vendor events I've gone to locally and met a lot of people, shaken a lot of hands, handed out a lot of candy.
There you go.
Yeah. So
boots on the street. You go to these, fairs, events, things like that, and get your name out there that way.
yes.
And do you like selling on Amazon?
It's really good. And when we publish for authors through Colwell Creative, we publish on Amazon. So I'm really familiar with it. It's great because they have so many options. Like you can publish ebook, paperback, hardcover. So really, whichever book type you want is available. And of course, you've got worldwide distribution. But the key is promoting what you do. And that's where a lot of authors run into trouble is, I wrote this great book. Why isn't it selling? You have to do the promotion part too. And
Awesome.
as long as, and so I've been working on that, and Slaying Goliath Ministries is going to help with that. And I'm excited because so many people go through hard times and they feel alone and you feel so hopeless. And Slaying Goliath Ministries is going to help people get through those hard times.
That's fantastic. That's great. That's great that you have that ability to help them, and you've overcome it yourself, and you have a plan. And in those workbooks, so what's some of the things in those workbooks that you have?
Okay, so the workbooks follow along with and I don't have the marriage ones to show you. For this book, I actually have a workbook for the wives and a workbook for the husbands. So
wow.
They can do the plan together. And it's just practical stuff. Like, how do you feel about your communication with your spouse? Where can you improve? What does the Bible have to say about how wives should be, it's not popular, but submitting to their husbands, and how husbands need to be loving their wives the same way that Jesus loves the church. Like it really, the questions in the workbooks dig in to the heart of the matter. It's none of it is fluff. It's very in your face and
Cool. And how are some of the people that are using it liking it?
people really love it. I'm actually going to be doing a Slaying Goliath class locally. My church is going to allow me to use their space in our local mall.
Okay.
So beginning of the year, I'm going to be doing a Slaying Goliath class. And I have a Facebook group that I run. It's called Slaying Goliath Prayer Warriors. We're almost at 400 members, and it's a great community of people that we have each other's backs.
That's awesome. That's great.
Yeah. Thank you.
So the ministry will get set up and really go into full swing. So 2025 is going to be a very busy year for you.
Yes.
And you're good. You're good with that. You like everything that's going on.
I am good with it. I am so thankful that I have my husband. He is a tremendous support for me. He's actually right now trying to work on my cover design for my new Slaying Goliath for Teens book that will be coming out in the next couple weeks. So
very cool.
Yeah, without him, I could not do any of this.
Mm-hmm. You need a right-hand man.
Absolutely.
So now, when you look at some of the grit that it's taken to get you here, kind of how have you seen yourself overcome some of these obstacles?
By the power of God. Not by I had to have the desire to keep going.
Mm-hmm.
And if I wouldn't have had that desire, of course, I would have given up a long time ago. My business would have floundered in 2019 when I thought I was going to lose it.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't have even gone on to do anything with Slaying Goliath. In my opinion, you have to be willing to keep going.
Yeah.
And there's always going to be negative circumstances because we live in the world, and things are positive and sometimes things are negative, and we go through ups and downs all the time. You have to know that those things are going to happen. But it's always just kind of been my philosophy that you just push through it. And even if you fail at something, okay, there's something else that you can try, and maybe you won't fail at that. And what did you learn from that first thing you failed at?
Sure, you got to get back up regardless. You got to get back on the horse.
Right.
I love it. That's key to success. I think it's a mindset. I think it's a mindset that you're going to be driven. You're going to make mistakes. You're going to fail. Things aren't going to go according to plan. You look at like your business. You lost a customer they lost a customer through no fault of your own. That happened. But that happens in business. Business is business. They say it, but it's true. Like, you had no impact of your client losing their client, but in the process, it cost you tremendously.
Yes.
And it made you have to rethink about, putting all your eggs in one basket. I have a kind of a rule of thumb that I don't like any client taking more than 7 to 10% of our revenue, because if we lose them, it's a big hit, versus if you lose somebody that's, 2 or 3 or 4% of your revenue, you could pick that back up. And you could pick it up easier than potentially losing 10% of your business. 10% of your business, you could end up laying off an employee because of that, which I never want to be. I never want to be in a position, knock on wood, in 15 years, we've never had to lay anybody off, and I hope for the next 15 years we don't have to ever lay anybody off. I would feel horrible if business, there's things outside of my control, but also at the same time, if I had to do that, it would be a really tough day.
Yeah, I hear you.
So, as we wrap up today, this was a great conversation. I am so happy that you weren't too scared to get on this podcast today. You did wonderful, and I hope that the audience also enjoys this conversation as much as I did. Let people know where they can find you, Nicole.
Well, anybody who's interested in getting help with a book, no matter where you are in the process, can find me on my website at www.colwellcreative.biz. And anybody who's interested in learning more about the books, Slaying Goliath series, the Giant Crushers kids series, you can find that at slayinggoliathministries.com.
Awesome. Thank you again for coming on, and thank you again for being a great podcast interview, and we look forward to hearing from you soon.
All right, thank you.
Have a great day.
Thanks, you too.
Bye-bye.
Bye.